Hi there, good afternoon. You've tuned into Market Fatafat, writer on ET Now, and this is I'm Cheryl D'Souza. Along with me, I have Vinny Motiwala. Very good afternoon to you, Vinny. And markets are doing absolutely nothing in this point in time, but do remember the fact that we had a weak close from the US markets, and if you compare to the US markets close, definitely we are outperforming right now. The Nifty is above the 18,700 mark. You have Sensex that is reclaimed 63,000 as well. If you look at the broader markets, once again outperforming the benchmark indices, but they've moved in lower from the day's highest point. Also, if you look at Nifty Bank as well, as moving in tandem with the benchmark indices. One key thing to note would be the fact that you will have the expiry that will take place tomorrow instead of Thursday, because you have a circular that's coming from the stock exchange confirming that tomorrow is indeed a working day and Thursday is when the market holiday will be.
Absolutely. Let's keep an eye on that. I was all prepared for a holiday tomorrow, but yes, that's going to be
That's the reason why you should never be happy about vacations or holidays.
Absolutely, but keeping an eye out on that. Today, market's steady as of now is what is coming in terms of the roundup for the market. But on that note, let's get started with all the stocks that are buzzing in trade, either on the back of news flows or on the back of technicals. And on the technicals, today we are joined by Merani, while from the research team we have Ashesha as well as Lisa joining in with us. A very good afternoon to all three of you all, and as always I'm going to be starting with the first stock that is in focus, and that one is PFC. Now today we've seen a buzz coming in the stock. Why? When you look at it, Elara has actually initiated coverage on the stock. They've given a target price of 326 rupees per share. They're maintaining a buy on this one. What they believe is that power finance, overall the sector as a whole, is at a cusp and at a cusp of an inflection, because there are a lot of factors that could come into play. One, macroeconomic stability. There's a sizable power sector capex that the government is focusing on as well. They've increased the thrust on power reform, strengthening the balance sheet of power value chain participants, and which will represent a robust lending story going forward as well, which will work out well obviously for PFC. And that is why this planned power sector capex per se expected to create more financing opportunity, as much as of around 98,000 crores by FY. That's the expected number, and currently it's at 60,000 crores, which was in FY23, so growing at a 7% CAGR. This is what is keeping them positive on a PFC, and that is why initiating coverage with a buy rating for the stock. And we've seen that buzz coming in the stock as well. It's up as much as 3.3%, almost in the day's highest point as well.
Yes, absolutely. That is PFC that is buzzing in trade. But let's put the spotlight on AB Capital, and yes, you heard the news first on ET Now. The AB Capital was all set to launch its QIP, and that's exactly how it is transpired. It is an ET Now news break confirmed, Winnie. AB Capital has gone ahead and launched that QIP, and remember the QIP is worth up to raise up to about 1,750 crore rupees. One of the key note to actually keep in mind is on May 11, the board had anyways got an approval to raise around 3,000 crore rupees, and out of that they already raised 1,250 crore rupees recently by pledging, I beg your pardon, by a preferential issue to promoters and promoters entity. And now they have gone ahead and they've launched this QIP, which is worth about 1,750 crore rupees. And as per the term sheet that the agencies have actually seen, the price range of the QIP is between 170 to 176 rupees per share, which is actually at a discount to yesterday's closing price. But if you look at the stock price today, definitely is perked up in trade. It is actually seen the biggest jump in approximately 7 months or so. That is AB Capital for you, almost 5% uptake, third straight session of gain. And yes, we told you first on ET Now.
Absolutely, keeping an eye out on AB Capital, a bunch to watch out for in trade, surely perked up in trade. Let's move on and talk about Nooresh's first stock on the charts, and Hero Motors, the stock that you've picked out for us, Nooresh, today on the charts. When you're looking at today, the stock is doing nothing exciting, but going forward at the current market price, Nooresh, do you think Hero Motor Corp would be a good buy?
Yeah, so looking at Hero Motor Corp as a medium to long-term bet. Now, it's not been exciting for the last 10 years now. The stock used to be at 2,800 back in 2014 to 2015. So 8 to 9 years now, the only returns have come in the form of dividends for the stock, which have been decent, but net the returns have been zero, even post-dividends for the last 5-6 years. 2,800 to 3,000 has been a major resistance for the last 1 year as well. So if we look at the last 1 year data, every time the stock has come to 2,800 to 3,000 band, it has flipped back towards 2,300, 2,400. This is the time where the stock has started sustaining around those levels. First time we are seeing relative outperformance. This indicates eventually the stock could break out above the 2,800 to 3,000 mark. and actually create a new trend which could take it to 3600 to 4000 in the medium term. And the structure is very similar to what happens with a lot of auto names. We've seen this happen with Mahindra and Mahindra, no returns for 5-7 years and then takes a catch up. Same has been the case with other auto stocks. So Hero MotoCorp could be the next one which could surprise on the upside over the medium term.
All right, that's the take coming in on MotoCorp, which Nooresh believes will surprise on the upside in the near to mid term. But Shesha, let's talk about Sapphire Foods, and this particular counter, I believe, is in focus on back of a block deal.
Well, yes, it is in focus on the back of a block deal. In fact, nearly 3 million shares changed hands via block deal that took place today morning, which translates to about 4.76% equity. Term sheet suggests that the deal was to take place in the price range of 1345 to 1391 rupees per share, and on account of this deal, the stock spiked up in early morning trade. It is off the highest point of the day, but nonetheless, it is trading with gains of 1% as we speak.
Surely keeping an eye out on Sapphire Foods on the back of this block deal and watching out for the names coming in there as well. But let's move on and talk about stock number 5 for today, Macrotech Developers. Lisa, why have you picked out this stock for us, and what is the news flow that we should be watching out for? Because today the stock is surely perked up and trade up 3% as of now, Lisa.
Yes, you're right, Winnie. So this Lora Group listed entity, Macrotech Developers, they have emerged as the successful bidder in this hotel, Mumbai-based V Hotel, which is the owner of Tulip Star. This is a bankrupt hotel, and the committee of creditors, they have declared Macrotech as a successful resolution applicant. And how will it benefit Macrotech developers? Well, V Hotels, they have a real estate assets that can be developed for residential as well as commercial purposes. And the hotel also has a 6-acre land in Ville Parle, and currently the hotel is non-operational. In addition to that, Macrotech Developers also bought 28,000 square meter land from HDFC Limited in Bhandup, and that is for 70 crore. So on the back of these news flow, Macrotech Developers shining in trade, and it's up around 3%, beating the Nifty Realty, which is up just around 1.4%.
All right, that is Macrotech Developers that is in focus. But Nooresh, BHEL, this also counter is something that you have been pretty bullish on of late. I believe this is also one of the stocks that you had recommended this morning as well. How are the charts looking for BHEL now? Do you think that it is still attractive after consolidating a tad bit post that run up that all the cap goods stock has witnessed?
So over the last 1 year, the best performing sector has been capital goods. In that period, it's been a relative underperformer, BHEL, and even in the long run, it has been an underperformer. If we look at the history, the stock has this spiky moves. But now at 85 to 90, this is the stock where it was in 2018. That is, so the longer term trends are changing out here. Then we go a little shorter term. Over the last 1 year, it topped out around 90 odd levels back in December. Then topped out around 88 levels back in April to May, and very recently, just a few days back, the stock had come to 88, 89 levels. So making a classical cup and handle formation on the short-term charts. Once this breaks out about 88, 90, it opens a move towards 110 to 120 also. So in the near term, after this dip from 88 to 84, 85 levels, it's a good risk-reward trade here with a stop loss at 82 and a target price of 110 to 120 in the medium term.
Okay, keeping an eye out on BHEL and those levels there. But let's move on and talk about those affordable housing names. And we have two of them specifically that is in focus. That is Home First Finance as well as Aptus Value Housing. Both these in focus because JM Financials has initiated a coverage on this one. They're positive on the overall affordable housing companies. They believe that these two stocks, they're keeping a buy rating on this one. They have a positive stance on Aavas Financiers as well, other than these two stocks. They believe there's a favorable view mainly coming in because of the large growth runway that could be there for these companies because one, there's under penetration in this industry. They're expecting a strong return of weighted average assets that they have, so they're expecting strong returns over there in terms of the profile. Valuations are more attractive as of now as well as in terms of the opportunity in the housing space is something that is very attractive. India remains one of those multi-decadal significant opportunity in terms of under-penetration, rising trends of urbanization, low mortgage penetration, more so in states that are large housing shortages are there, and policy environment is also boding well for these companies. That is why they're positive on both these stocks. There's a lot of opportunity for these companies to see a growth, and that is why keeping an eye out on Home First Finance as well as Aptus Value Housing Finance as well. Aptus Value up 1.69% as of now. Home First Finance just smiley seeing growth of almost 0.6%.
Absolutely. Also not forgetting the fact that even the the realty sector has been buzzing off late, and today is among the top sectoral gainer as well. But let's put the spotlight on the new age tech companies, and that has got to be PayTM in today's trading session. Because remember that all of these new age tech stocks, Vinny, have recovered from their 52-week lows, and PayTM also stands out in that particular counter.
I think they were like on a downfall for the longest period of time after the valuation
a lot of
them.
investors did feel the pinch, and then everyone did celebrate all together because all of them saw a uptick. But that's the problem, and that's the reason why you have Macquarie that's gone ahead and actually downgraded PayTM in today's note. They've downgraded the particular counter to a neutral from an outperform rating, and the reason why they've cited for the downgrade is the sharp outperformance in the stock price. Remember, they are today, irrespective of that, the stock is still trading in positive territory, holding on to gains, and approximately 58% this year is what.
Wow, that's a really good run-up. No wonder Macquarie is worried about that.
Way much more than the benchmark indices return. So yes, Macquarie has said that a few months of bad performance could result in lenders withdrawing their credit lines, significantly affecting the ability to grow. However, they are saying that PayTM frequently appears to be facing regulatory errors for lapses in their competitive and regulatory issues as well. Nevertheless, they are also saying that they are expecting the company to turn profitable maybe by FY26. They are saying, but also you need to watch out for Geo Financial Services if there's any likely announcement on that particular front in RIL AGM. So yes, a lot of factors, but not to forget, PayTM has been a winner this year also.
Absolutely a winner this year. But let's move on and talk about Tata Chemicals then, Nooresh. And do you see this becoming a winner anytime soon? What should we be seeing in terms of charts for Tata Chemicals today? Surely buzzing in trade. How is the trend going forward?
So Tata Chemicals looks interesting from a short-term chart perspective. If you look at the last 6 months data, and the stock has made a bottom around 930 to 940, almost 4 to 5 times. On the upper end, the stock has made a top around 1020 odd levels, and this has been a resistance. And on a dividend-adjusted basis chart today, the stock has given a breakout by crossing 1010 levels. So a range of roughly around 80 to 100 points for almost 6 months, which is being taken out today. A breakout in this case gives us a short-term target price of 1100, 1150. A buy at current levels with a stop loss at 980.
All right, so that's take coming in on Tata Chemicals. Definitely a thumbs up coming in from Nooresh. But let's talk about BLS International, Ashesha, and why is this particular stock featuring in your list today?
Well, yes, this counter is in focus, and that is because company's subsidiary is all set to come out with an IPO. The company yesterday informed the exchanges that BLS E-Services Limited, which is a subsidiary of the company, has approved fundraising via initial public offering or IPO, and the company has also clarified that this company will continue to remain a subsidiary of BLS International, which is the current listed entity. So some positive news coming in over there, and that is the reason the stock is buzzing in trade today. It is off the highest point of the day, but despite that, it is sitting on with gains of nearly 1.5%.
Okay, let's keep an eye out on that one. But let's move on and talk about Bajaj Consumers. Nooresh, when I look at it in terms of 1 year, around 41% return, that uptick has they've managed to see, when you look at the charts right now also, from March we started seeing that up move increase in terms of the momentum. Today also trading almost at a 6-month high as well, Nooresh. At the current price, Bajaj Consumer, would it still be a buy for you?
So in the short term, over the last say 6 to 8 months, the stock has done well. But if we go a little longer and look at Bajaj Consumer, the stock used to be at almost 500 levels back in 2015 to 2018. From there, it went through a correction. Even back in 2021 start, it was around 300 odd levels. Then it kept on correcting, made a low around 130, 140s. And now for the last 1 year, it was in a range of 180 on the upper end and 130 on the lower end. Then the range shifted closer to 155 on the lower end to 180. Now finally over the last 1 month, 1.5 months, the stock has given the breakout of a 180.85 and sustaining around this area. So it has created a new base around 180. The trend seems to have changed to finally for the stock. The longer term trend which was down has finally changed, and this could be a stock which is a defensive play. At 190.95, the stock, one could keep a stop loss at 180 levels. Expect a target price of 250 to 280 in the medium term.
All right, moving on, Lisa, let's talk about Bharti Airtel. This particular counter was definitely buzzing in trade today. It is among the top gainers on the Nifty today. But why is this in the spotlight?
So Bharti Airtel is in focus on the back of its restructuring of the leadership team. Well, their CEO, that is Ajay Chitkara, he has decided to move on and he will stay till August 2023. Consequently, Airtel business that will operate in 3 business segments. The global business that will be led by Vani Venkatesh. Domestic business will be led by Ganesh Lakshminarayan, and their third business, that is Nextra Data Centers, that will be headed by Ashish Arora. So against this, Morgan Stanley came out with a note on Bharti Airtel and they gave an outperform rating on the stock at a target price of around 870. And they said that the outgoing CEO, it is of less concern because the leadership team is already in place to ensure business continuity for the same. So, well, we can see that Bharti Airtel is buying in trade. It's up around 1.5% as we speak.
Okay, that's on the back of a news flow that are keeping Bharti Airtel on our radar. But also, Nooresh, Bharti Airtel on the charts, what is the view coming in for this one now?
So the stock was out of radar for most people for quite some time, but what is interesting in the price action is the stock has made a new 52-week high and an all-time high. The only spike which we saw on MSCI in the last 15 minutes, that is the time it went above 880 levels for a few moments, but 860 was the previous high, 850, 860 was the high also in June, and the previous high back in November was around 860 a couple of times. Today, the stock has crossed above the 860 mark, so that's a new 52-week high, all-time high. A cup and handle formation here in the short term, and a clear outperformance for the stock. This indicates a shorter-term momentum. It could go towards 900 to 960 levels in the short term. A buy at current levels with a stop loss at 845.
On to the next one and first talk about Equita Small Finance Bank. This one is in focus. Why? Because we have a note that has come in from Kotak Securities where they've increased the target price to 95 rupees per share from previously 77 rupees per share. They're maintaining an ad rating on this one. They believe that the business momentum that is going to be strong across all the sectors for the company in key segments, and the small business loans is the flagship, that is the flagship business of the bank, and also seems to be a highly profitable one with a 3.5% return on asset. That will be positive is what they believe for Equita Small Finance Bank. The management also sounded quite optimistic when they'd spoken to them about the growth in terms of business driven mainly by recovery in the borrowers income and large untapped market, and the bank's ability to actually underwrite is something that will work out well for the company. So on the back of this, we're seeing that Equita Small Finance Bank today was buzzing in trade, as of now holding on to gains for almost 1.4% in trade. The asset quality is not much of a concern. That's a word coming in from Kotak on Equity Small Finance Bank. So keeping an eye out on that.
All right, let's move on. Actually, we'll get that rectified for you. It is not HCC that is in focus. It should be Hindustan Aeronautics. That's the company that should be in focus. Hindustan Aeronautics has approved splitting each share into 2. They've approved about 15 rupees per share as the final dividend. I will request my producer also to fire Hindustan Aeronautics. There you go. That's the particular counter that is in focus in today's trading session. But Nooresh, coming to you, EPL, why is this one in the spotlight?
So the stock has gone through a sideways phase for the last 1 year. Very interesting chart formation. It made 5 to 6 bottoms around 150 mark, and now 150 was the earlier price point where actually was a major resistance after the takeover for the stock. 150 was a problem zone that became a support area for the last 1 year, from February March in 2022 to a bottom in February March at 150. In the interim, it made 3 to 4 attempts around the 190-95 mark, and every time it would come back to 150. Now recently, over the last 2 months, the stock has broken out about 195, did a flip back to 180, again broke out about 195, and has been sustaining for the last 1 month. Now this is a range breakout of almost 50 points, so this gives us a target price of 250 plus in the short to medium term. So buy at current levels, accumulated 190 to 210, would keep a stop loss below 190 and keep a target price of 250 to 300 here.
All right, that is EPL. That is in focus in today's trading session. Let's talk about ICICI Prudential, and why is that one in the spotlight? Because they've actually informed the exchanges that they've received a show cause a demand notice coming in from Director General of GST Intelligence, that will be DGGI, for a tax of around 492 crores. rupees. This is as per the exchange filing, like I mentioned. They're saying that the tax pertains to July 2017 to July 2022 period. They're also saying that the company will now go ahead and take appropriate steps in due course to reply to that notice coming in and also contest the matter. And during the course of the inquiry, ICICI Prudential had deposited about 190 crore rupees without accepting any liabilities. But remember, you also have to keep in mind, Vinny, that the life insurance companies are on a tear, be it HDFC Life, ICICI Prudential.
All of them are just flying
All of them are flying high. So that you can see, it's actually, the stock is undeterred in today's trading session, 1.7% uptick.
Absolutely. Let's move on and then talk about Samvardhana Motherson, Samuel as we knew it as. And Nooresh, this one, a couple of years back, yes, was a bit down and out in trade, but surely picked up a bit of momentum in the last 6 months as well when you look at it. Today, down almost 0.1%. What are you indicating in terms of the technicals over here?
So, if we look at Samvardhana Motherson Sumi out here, the stock corrected from 84, 85 levels all the way to 64 in the last period of March, April, then made a recovery. 84, 85 was a resistance. And now for the last 2 weeks, the stock has been facing resistance around that 84, 85 mark, trying to make a breakout move. Has made an attempt towards 88 also in the last 3-4 sessions. So looks like this breakout could eventually play in the short term. Would keep a stop loss at 81.50. Expect a target price of 100 in this one in the short term. And if you were to look at it in terms of a pure play longer term bet also, the same prices were a problem in 2022 as well. So overall looks like a trend change here and a short term move towards 100.
All right, moving on. Shesha, let's talk about Axis Kid. And this particular counter is definitely a buzz in today's trading session. Vinny, I think last time when I checked, there you go. It is locked in the upper circuit of 5%. Shesha, tell us what's the reason?
Well, yes, it's a 1700 crore market cap company, not a company that we usually talk about, but today it deserves attention. Yesterday, the company informed the exchanges that they have completed refinancing of their existing debt to the tune of 210 crores. This debt they had borrowed for acquisition of Mistral. The company also said that the aforesaid refinancing will bring down company's interest cost to the tune of 400 basis points per annum. So some update coming in there with respect to refinancing of their debt and consequent reduction of interest costs, which will directly impact their profitability. So positive news, and that is the reason the stock is locked in upper circuit today.
Okay, let's move on and talk about a banking name, and Bandhan Bank, Nooresh. That's the one you picked out, and I think I'm seeing this name after a very long time on a technical analyst list coming in there. So Bandhan Bank, what are you seeing in terms of charts over there? Last 6 months, yes, a bit of a flip-floppy and recovery that we've seen coming in terms of there. What are the charts indicating now?
So if you look at Bandhan Bank, it's been a terrible chart for quite some time. The stock pre-COVID used to be closer to 350, 400. Even in 2018 to 2019, the stock used to be 500 to 550 levels. From those levels, it fell to 150 in COVID and did a bounce back towards 400 levels in 2021. And then again, made a bottom almost closer to 180 in this fall. So it's been in a downtrend for quite some time, but the last recovery from April was a strong one, recovered from 180 to 270. Now it has seen a correction from 270 levels to 235, 240. Now this is a price point where it becomes a risk reward trade, wherein this could be a minimum bounce back towards 270 to 300. Looking at what has happened with the rest of the MFI in the financial space, this stock looks interesting from a risk reward perspective, and a lot of catch up to be done here. So a buy at 235, 240 levels, a stop loss at 230, an initial target price of 270, and an upside could also be 300, 330. So a good risk reward buy here.
All right, so that is Bandhan Bank, where Nooresh is seeing a significant upside and expecting a good risk reward as well. But on that note, we slip into a break on this edition of Market Fatafat. But stay tuned, there's lots to discuss on the other side of the break. Don't go anywhere.